In this video, I'm going to investigate whether SBF is indeed really cheaper than resale flat. In order to get the answer, I will compare several units that were offered back in July 2025 SBF exercise and compare it with nearby resale flat around that same time. Let's start with St. George Tower. So as you can see, this SBF is actually still quite young because the remaining lease is still about 94 years when it was offered back in July 2025. But then at that time, there were only one unit of 4-room flat and the keys was available. St. George Towers itself is actually in a very good location. It is within walking distance from Boon Keng MRT station. No doubt that this project is located in a mature town and have quite a lot of amenities and also several school options nearby. So in that SBF exercise, that particular unit was offered at $834,000. It was located on the 14th floor. So indeed, it is quite high. At least it's more than level 10. So that's good. And then we can also see the asterisk sign here, meaning this was a repurchase flat. But again, having said that, when this was offered in SBF, it still has like 94 years of lease available. So even though it was repurchased, but it is still relatively young. So this is the nearby resale prices that is near the location. And then to make sure that we do an apple-to-apple comparison, because the data that I took was SBF from July 2025, hence I'm taking the resale data only up to July 2025 as well. So I'm not going to take it until today's date, but only up to July. And then as we can see that the prices, like a lot of them already beyond 1 million, some of it like even beyond $1.2 million, even like the cheapest, quote unquote cheapest, it's like $926,000. So when that particular unit was offered in SBF for $834,000, we can see from the data that indeed that SBF was really cheaper than the nearby resale flat. Now let's take a look at another example, this time from Sengkang. So during that SBF exercise, they were offering a unit at Fernvale Vista with remaining lease of 87 years. In terms of location, that particular development is within walking distance to Fernvale LRT station. And another exciting part is that it is also close to the Silitar Mall. And then there are some school options as well. So even though it was located in a non-mature town, but indeed we can see that actually there are quite a lot of amenities surrounding the area. Now at that time, the price that was offered was $379,000 and it was a unit at level 3. So not that high, it's on the low floor. And also it was a repurchase flat. That's why the leftover lease was only like 80 something years. Now, if we look at the nearby resale flat prices around that area, it's actually like more than $500,000. As you can see, $580,000, $640,000, some is even at $700,000. But of course, this is on a much higher floor. But even if we want to make it apple to apple, the SBF unit was on the 3rd floor, right? Let's take this as an example. This one was sold on the resale market for $580,000. And then another unit was sold at $550,000 between level 4 and 6. So if we look at the SBF flat again, it was located on the 3rd floor and it was offered at $379,000. So indeed, it is also still cheaper than the resale market. Next, let's look at another example, this time at Punggol Lodge, where the remaining lease was only 87 years old and there was only one unit offered of a 4-room flat. In terms of location, it was within walking distance to the Damai LRT station, which is only one stop away from the Punggol MRT station. As we can see, there are several school options as well nearby the area. That particular unit was located on the 9th floor and it was offered at $444,000. And again, this was a repurchase flat. So that's why it is slightly a bit older. Now let's look at the nearby resale prices for comparison. as we can see, the comparison is like from $570,000 up to more than $730,000. So during the SBF exercise, it was only offered at $444,000 and it was located on the 9th floor. So if we look at the comparison, right, this one also between level 7 and level 9, it was sold over $730,000. There's another example, this one also between level 7 and level 9, it was sold more than $660,000. So the fact that it was offered in SBF for $444,000, that is indeed significantly cheaper than the nearby resale flat. Now, let's go to the fourth example, which this one is in a mature town. So this one was Bishan Ridges, and during that particular SBF, the unit is not ready yet, and it will only be completed in 2026. That's why the remaining lease is still marked as 99 years. At that time, there were 13 units of 4-room flat that was offered back in July 2025. In terms of location, indeed, that project is quite premium because it is somewhat within walking distance to Bishan MRT station, although I know it's a bit far. But had this project been launched now, probably it would be either a plus or a prime, right? Because it is so in such a desirable area. So at that time, there were quite a lot of units offered, and then as we can see, some of them are located in a very high floor. So for example, this one is at level 33, this one at level 30, 29, 17, and then also we have option from lower floor. This one is at level 4. And then in terms of pricing, we can see that the high floors are offered beyond $700,000. And then, but even the one at level 4, this is already like $693,000, so already close to $700,000 as well. I think for me personally, what is very interesting, if you notice, this one is at level 33. But then it's only being offered at $776,000, whereas this one is level 30, and then it was being offered at $778,000. So this one is higher but somehow was cheaper. This one at level 33, it was even cheaper than this one at level 29 because this one was like $777,000. So I don't know what made HDB decided the prices in such a way, but I just find it interesting that a higher floor doesn't necessarily mean it is cheaper than lower floors in SBF exercise. So that's interesting. Now, when I try to look for the nearby resale prices for Bishan Street 13, basically around the area, unfortunately, they don't really have new units that is comparable. So the data that you're seeing here are like older flats. As you can see, the remaining lease was like 61 years. So definitely not apple to apple because we are comparing between SBF units that will only be available starting 2026 versus this one, which is already like 30 plus years old. So definitely not apple to apple. But then if you look at the price, so even the older flats are still selling at $700,000-ish or at least $600,000-ish. So I think the prices that they put during that SBF exercise is still making sense because if like 30 years old flat being offered, being transacted at like $700,000, then a new flat should be around that price as well. So I think that makes sense. My guess is when HDB decided the SBF prices for these units, they are looking for broader comparison beyond the 200 meters radius. Most probably they compare it within like 4-kilometer radius or something like that. I don't know. But I think to be fair, the price still makes sense for the area. So in summary, from the data that we saw, SBF flats are indeed cheaper than resale, but usually it is still more expensive than BTO in the same area. The price is still subsidized, but it might be adjusted a bit to reflect current market trends or the fact that you might move in much sooner. The main draw here is the shorter waiting time. Since many of these flats are already under construction or even completed, you could get your keys in a few months to a couple of years, much faster than a BTO. They offer a good balance between a new flat flat and a quicker move-in date. However, the watch out is SBF is still involving balloting process, and not all SBF units are unsold BTO flats. It could also be older repurchase flats. So my general suggestion is before you apply for an SBF in a particular area, do pay attention on the proportion between new or upcoming flats versus repurchase flats to make sure that you still have a good chance to secure unit that you want. But what do you think? Do you prefer to get a BTO, SBF, or resale flat? Let me know in the comment section down below. To support my work, you can give a one-time tip by pressing the thanks button, pick the amount that you want, and click buy and send. Or you can also press the join button for exclusive contents and monthly membership. Your support means a lot to keep us independent. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!